be careful with it. Hey. Oh, y'all. Okay. Shayla. That's Wabble. Great rising. Okay, y'all. I hope I don't have no issue. I think I might have an issue with this today. Hold on. I don't know. Sometimes it do, sometimes it don't. Both YouTube and Facebook is acting funny. Let's see. Yeah, I know a few people tell me that they had stopped getting the notifications. I'm not sure why. Maybe something has changed, the algorithm or something. In Facebook, it's changed where you gotta go back and do it. But what I have noticed though, some of my friends, if I haven't seen them in a while, what in the world? Oh. Okay, if I haven't seen them in a while, excuse me, like a couple people yesterday just they should have been in my timeline, but they randomly popped up after a while, and I realized it had been a while since I'd seen something from them, but then I saw something yesterday, and I realized, excuse me, beside their name, the notification bell has been muted for them. Now, I don't go and silence anybody. On Facebook I don't. But that was strange to me for like 3 different people. I noticed when they popped up in the timeline, I noticed beside their name there's the notification bell, and it's cut to silent. And so I switched them back on. So I'm not sure. That could be why. Check into that. Like if you scroll through your timeline and see me, look beside Murphy Tribe and see if you see that notification bell, and see if it's like grayed out with a line through it. If so, I'm just gonna say Facebook changed the algorithm, and they cut off the notifications or something, or maybe we were supposed to update something in the terms and conditions, and if you didn't, it automatically just started silencing, I guess, the most active people in your stream until you realize, wait a minute, what happened? I seen anything from them? You go to checking. I don't know, but I just kind of unmuted them. I didn't go to my terms and conditions though, so I'm sure they're still. Now that I think about it, I'm sure other people are muted because I checked a couple yesterday after I recognized 2 were muted, and a couple people that I did go check, they were also muted as well. I don't know. So that's what I would say. I would say check the notifications and see if Facebook has muted you. So that's the only thing that I can think of at this moment. Unless you muted me and forgot you muted me and you're not getting notifications. Okay. Excuse me. I feel like I'm going to have issues with YouTube today. I can just feel it. I hope not. Let's see. It's buffering. Trina Hager, hey, that's Wabu. Christy, great to see you too, sis. Robert, that's Wabu. All right, y'all. Okay, we live. I don't know if that was wise. I got some cranberry juice. I'll make my mouth tight. But I needed something other than water. I mean, I guess I really didn't. I just wanted something other than water. So I got a little bit of juice, but I got my water bottle. So, yeah. I got it right here just in case. Mom, shalom. Okay, Shayla's working. Popped in. Sweet. Okay, y'all. Excuse me. Happy Friday. It is October the 2nd, 2021. Day 268 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year, consecutive day count. Day 937. Today we're reading Job 4, 5, and 6. And we're going to pick up in Caesar's Messiah, who we left off at yesterday in chapter 7 on page 212. All right, so let's go ahead and do the Auntie Belinda Brown. Shalom, shalom. Let's go ahead and do the Shema and get started here. And get through. I think we'll be finishing up chapter 7 today. I'm already thinking about what we're gonna read next. We I think we're more than halfway through this book now. It seemed like we went through it fast, right? Look, this is a thick book. See how thick this is? This is where we're at, right here. We're a little bit, we're about, what page? I think we are halfway through. Yeah, we are a couple pages past the halfway point. Because we're on page 212, and it's 412 pages altogether. So, yeah, y'all. So, I'm thinking about it. What we're going to read next. Let's see. Okay, y'all. Remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Remember, go on and read the full chapter when you get a chance on your own time. I just kind of pull the meat and potatoes of the Shema out for us, just kind of remind us daily what we should be doing, right? Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, He is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. There we go. It went out. See? Hold on, yeah. I knew it. Give me a second. I'll pick up where we left off on the Shema when I start this back up. I knew. I just felt it deep down in my shana mouth. Hold on, y'all. Let me get it back up. I got everything on my screen, so I could have finished the Shema. I really could have. I really knew it by heart, but I just like to read it. Okay, give me a couple moments while it comes back up. I'm going to have to start, excuse me. I'm going to have to start YouTube over because I know it's going to be buffering. It's going to come up, it's going to say it's still recording, see, but I bet it's buffering. Yep, your connection is unstable. Hold on. They can't see me. They always say it's buffering. Say it's unstable. Jeez, we'll just start it over. Sorry, y'all. And I can see what the screen is just jumping. Alright, let me just start it over. I know, this is so unprofessional. Leave. Start over. We'll pull this together, y'all. Live. Yes. 1 second, y'all. Just bring this back up. Okay. Again. I need to make my production better, y'all. I really do. Before this month out, I think I'm gonna just upgrade my laptop altogether. I be trying to hold on. It's a MacBook. She done it well for a long time. Okay. That's what I think it is. Uncle JB. Okay. Shayla, I think it's back up. Okay. Is it? Okay. It says it's recording. Okay. Alright, so let's jump back to the Shema real quick. I probably should just start over, right? Let's just do it over. Okay. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. So remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. We started at verse 3, went all the way down to the end of the chapter. But I didn't put all the details of it in there, but they're there. This is the gist of everything. So, like I said before, read it on your own time. When you get a chance, read the full chapter. You should read the preceding chapters and the ones following it as well. All right, y'all. We're back. Yes, I'm so sorry, y'all. I knew it. I just felt it down in my shanana that it was going to go out on me before we got started good. Hopefully it doesn't go out again. Okay, so let's pull up Job. Let's minimize that. Get this out the way. Job 4. Thank y'all for bearing with me and my unprofessional production here, you know. Alright, let me get it together. We'll get a little more we'll get better. Okay, Job chapter 4. Eliphaz's first response to Job. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied to Job, "Will you be patient and let me say a word? For who could keep from speaking out? In the past, you have encouraged many people. You have strengthened those who were weak. Your words have supported those who were falling. You encouraged those with shaky knees. But now, when trouble strikes, you lose heart. You are terrified when it touches you. Doesn't your reverence for Yahuwah give you confidence? Doesn't your life of integrity give you hope? Stop and think. Do the innocent die? When have the upright been destroyed? My experience shows..." Excuse me. Hold on. Shabbat Shalom yourself. I'm not as winded as I have been. I can tell my strength and my breath is coming back. But when I start talking too fast, it's like, it causes me to cough. So, but I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. Okay. Stop and think. Do the innocent die? When have the upright been destroyed? My experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil will harvest the same. A breath from Yahuwah destroys them. They vanish in a blast of his anger. The lion roars and the wildcat snarls, but the teeth of the strong lions will be broken. The fierce lion will starve for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness will be scattered. This truth was given to me in secret, as though whispered in my ear. Excuse me. It came to me in a disturbing vision at night when people are in a deep sleep. Fear gripped me, and my bones trembled. My spirit swept past my face, and my hair stood on end. The spirit stopped, but I could not see its shape. There was a form before my eyes. In silence, I heard a voice say, "Can a mortal be innocent before Yahuwah? Can anyone be pure before the Creator? If Yahuwah does not trust his own angels and has charged his messengers with foolishness, how much less will he trust people made of clay? They are made of dust, crushed as easily as a moth. They are alive in the morning, but dead by evening. gone forever without a trace. Their tent cords are pulled, and the tent collapses, and they die in ignorance. Next chapter, Job chapter 5. Eliphaz's response continues. Cry for help, but will anyone answer you? Which of the angels will help you? Surely resentment destroys the fool, and jealousy kills the simple. I have seen that fools may be successful for the moment, but then comes sudden disaster. Their children are abandoned, far from help. They are crushed in court with no one to defend them. The hungry devour their harvest, even when it is guarded by brambles. The thirsty pant after their wealth, but evil does not spring from the soil, and trouble does not sprout from the earth. People are born for trouble as readily as sparks fly up from a fire. If I were you, I would go to Yahuwah and present my case to him. He does great things too marvelous to understand. He performs countless miracles. He gives rain for the earth and water for the fields. He gives prosperity to the poor and protects those who suffer. He frustrates the plans of schemers, so the work of their hands will not succeed. He traps the wise in their own cleverness, so their cunning schemes are thwarted. Sorry, I'm trying to keep from coughing. I just feel, I don't know what just happened. Hey guys, chill.
I can use this tape.
Okay.
Use it all?
Go ahead.
I just had to take a couple deep breaths. I don't know.
You have work today?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, let me just slow down. Okay, y'all. Sorry. All right. I don't know, maybe I need to sit up straight or something. Okay.
I got all my school.
Okay. He frustrates the plans of schemers, so the work of their hands will not succeed. He traps the wise in their own cleverness, so their cunning schemes are thwarted. They find it is. Hold on. I don't know. I don't know. Just. Hold on.
You short of breath?
Yeah, just, I don't know what just happened. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. I probably should get a little bit of honey. Can you give me some honey? Sorry, y'all. Hold on. It's over there. Yeah, just give me like a spoon of it. Okay. Got out. It just, I don't know. It kind of feel like somebody just punched me. Okay. He traps the, not too much, just, you know. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll just, sorry, y'all. We'll just coat my throat or something, I don't know. No, this is so unprofessional.
What you just said?
This is so unprofessional.
Oh.
Okay.
It's life, man. It happens.
Okay, hold on, y'all. I'm good. Okay. Okay. He traps the wise in their own cleverness, so their cunning schemes are thwarted. They find it is dark in the daytime, and they grope at noon as if it were night. He rescues the poor from the cutting words of the strong, and rescues them from the clutches of the powerful. And so at last the poor have hope, and the snapping jaws of the wicked are shut. But consider the joy of those corrected by Yahuwah. Do not despise the discipline of the Almighty when you sin, for though he wounds, he also bandages. He strikes, but his hands also heal. From 6 disasters he will rescue you. Even in the 7th, he will keep you from evil. He will save you from death in the time of famine, from the power of the sword in time of war. You will be safe from slander and have no fear when destruction comes. You will laugh at destruction and famine. Wild animals will not terrify you. You will be at peace with the stones of the field, and its wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your home is safe. When you survey your possessions, nothing will be missing. You will have many children. Your descendants will be as plentiful as grass. You will go to the grave at a ripe old age, like a sheaf of grain harvested at the proper time. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Christy. We have studied life and found all this to be true. Listen to my counsel and apply it to yourself. Whew, oh my gosh, that worked. I don't know. It's like all of a sudden my throat got dry, and it's just like, it felt like I just got winded real quick. Every time I say I feel like I'm getting better and everything, then something just real quick. But thanks, Chrissy. That definitely helped. Thanks for coming down at the right time to get it for me, babe.
That's what I did to you.
Jerry, man. Shalom, shalom. Okay, last chapter for today, Job chapter 6. Then Job spoke again. If my misery could be weighed and my troubles be put on the scales, they would outweigh all the sands of the sea. That is why I spoke impulsively, for the Almighty has struck me down with his arrows. Their poison infects my spirit. Yahuwah's terrors are lined up against me. Don't I have a right to complain? Don't wild donkeys bray when they find no grass, and oxen bellow when they have no food? Don't people complain about unsalted food? Does anyone want the tasteless white of an egg? My appetite disappears when I look at it. I gag at the thought of eating it. Oh, that I might have my request, that Yahuwah would grant my desire. I wish he would crush me. I wish he would reach out his hand and kill me. At least I can take comfort in this. Despite the pain, I have not denied the words of the Holy One. But I don't have the strength to endure. I have nothing to live for. Do I have the strength of a stone? Is my body made of bronze? No, I am utterly helpless, without any chance of success. One should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty. My brothers, you have proved as unreliable as a seasonal brook that overflows its banks in the spring when it is swollen with ice and melting snow. But when the hot weather arrives, the water disappears. The brook vanishes in the heat. The caravans turn aside to be refreshed, but there is nothing to drink, so they die. The caravans from Tema search for this water. The travelers from Sheba hope to find it. They count on it, but are disappointed. When they arrive, their hopes are dashed. You too have given no help. You have seen my calamity, and you are afraid. But why? Have I ever asked you for a gift? Have I begged for anything of yours for myself? Have I asked you to rescue me from my enemies, or to save me from ruthless people? Teach me, and I will be quiet. Show me what I have done wrong. Honest words can be painful, but what do your criticisms amount to? Do you think your words are convincing when you disregard my cry of desperation? You would even send an orphan into slavery or sell a friend. Look at me. Would I lie to your face? Stop assuming my guilt, for I have done no wrong. Do you think I am lying? Don't I know the difference between right and wrong? And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Job 4, 5, and 6. No, I want one too, babe. Won't you make us one?
I don't make them like you. You make them better than me.
Okay, y'all. Oh, okay. I'll make us one a little bit. Let me get finished with this. All right. All right. Whew. Thank you again so much for that, Christy. Thank you. Okay. That helped. That honey definitely just helped. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're going to pick up where we left off at yesterday. Page 212 in Caesar's Messiah. Oh, thought. Okay.
You ordered noodles
I just
again
wanna-
yesterday?
I did.
Isn't that good to you?
It is.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. Okay, y'all. So, yesterday, let's see. Okay, I started talking a whole lot yesterday. I didn't get off, but when I started talking about the Sakari, the last 30 minutes of the video was just me rambling on. Okay, so we'll pick up. They were talking about the resurrection and how things were, he's still talking about how they was going back and forth between the two tombs, not realizing they were at Lazarus' tomb. What? Oh yeah, what I've been able to do the last couple of weeks. Okay. Let me go back to the last paragraph. The paragraph before the last that we read yesterday. Okay. The following passage from Wars of the Jews reveals why Titus finds it necessary to create a religion that worships him without its members knowing it. Titus's problem is that the Sakari refused to call him Lord, even after being tortured. To circumvent this stubbornness, Titus simply switches himself into the Jews' Messiah. The ultimate cruel joke of Christianity is that it causes Jews to call Caesar their Lord without their knowing it. The passage also contains another element of Christianity evidently stolen from the Sakari movement, that of its members rejoicing while being tortured for refusing to renounce their faith. So you can see this kind of in Left Behind movies, where those who don't deny Jesus, they got everything backwards. Those that don't deny Jesus, most of them are rejoicing for being a martyr for his sake, for not renouncing him. But in all actuality, it was actually the Hebrews who would not renounce Yahuwah to worship Jesus or Titus, right? Or Caesar. All them terms that they talking about, the same person who just pulled the wool over the eyes of the entire world. Okay. To circumvent this stubbornness, Titus simply switches himself into the Jews' Messiah. The ultimate cruel joke of Christianity is that it causes Jews to call Caesar their Lord without their knowing it. The passage also contains another element of Christianity evidently stolen from the Sakari movement, that of its members rejoicing while being tortured for refusing to renounce their faith. Quote, the Sakari, whose courage, or whether we ought to call it madness or hardiness in their opinions, everybody was amazed at, saying that they couldn't believe that they were so strong in their faith that they would not renounce Yahuwah as being the only Savior, the only Creator. They were amazed that despite all the tortures they were putting the Sakari or the Hebrews through, that they would not renounce Yah, right? And it amazed them. Okay. For when all sorts of torments and vexations of their bodies that could be devised were made use of to them, they could not get any one of them to comply so far as to confess or seem to confess that Caesar was their Lord, but they preserved their own opinion in spite of all the distress they were brought to, as if they received these torments in the fire itself, with bodies insensible of pain, and with a soul that in a manner rejoiced under them. But what was most of all astonishing to the beholders was the courage of the children. For not one of these children was so far overcome by these torments as to name Caesar as their Lord. So far does the strength of the courage of the soul prevail over the weakness of the body. End quote. And that's reference 117. And that's powerful. I know we see it in Left Behind movies and how they doing this because of their love for JC, but it's complete opposite of what was really happening in the Hebrews and their love for Yah. Although they, like I said, they was doing their own shenanigans, but you ain't gonna make us go worship another. You ain't gonna tell us we're gonna worship another God, right? They weren't having it. Even down to the children, it said the children is what amazed them most, that even the children would not deny Yahuwah. Okay. So that's where we actually stopped reading yesterday, and this paragraph is where we pick up today. The switching of Titus with Jesus occurs in John 21. The chapter begins with Jesus coming to the Sea of Galilee in the morning, where he showed himself to his disciples. The disciples are described as being unable to recognize Jesus from the small boat in which they had spent the night. Excuse me. I just feel like I gotta clear my throat. I'm sorry. Jesus instructs them to cast the net, after which they haul in a multitude of fish. Remember, when I do this, they got and I skipped a couple of them where they got the parentheses or the quotes around the word. Jesus instructs them to cast the net, after which they haul in a multitude of fish. Being informed that it is the Lord, Simon swims ashore, where he and the disciples eat bread and fish with Jesus, who then prophesies that Simon will be put to death, but John will be spared. Quote, after these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and in this way he showed himself. Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. They said to him, we're going with you also. Then they went out and immediately got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. But when the morning had now come, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Then Jesus said to them, children, have you any food? They answered him, no. Okay. I wanted to say something real quick. Yesterday, they were talking about how after they saw Jesus, but after the resurrection, they were talking about how they were further trying to spoof you by showing you in each gospel how none of them could recognize who he was, right? Okay, so just in case you forgot that part. So I remember now what the gist of yesterday what we were reading was. Okay. But when the morning had now come, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know it was Jesus. Then Jesus said to them, children, have you any food? They answered him, no. And he said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. So they cast, and now they were not able to draw it in because of the multitude of fish. Excuse me. Okay, that's better. I'm sorry, y'all. I know, that's gross. Okay. Therefore, the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was naked, and plunged into the sea. But when the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from the land, but were about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish, then as soon as they had come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid on it, and bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish which you have just caught. Simon Peter went up and dragged the net to land, full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the net was not broken. Jesus said to them, come and eat breakfast. Yet none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? Knowing that it was the Lord. Jesus then came and took the bread and gave it to them, and likewise the fish. This is now the 3rd time Jesus showed himself to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. End quote. And it's John 21 verses 1 through 14. This story of the disciples catching fish shares a number of parallels with the passage in Wars of the Jews that describe the Romans catching Jews like fish on the Sea of Galilee, which I have discussed previously. In that passage, Josephus describes a band of rebels led by a Jesus, the son of Shaphat. This Jesus leads a sally against the Romans. In response, Vespasian orders Titus to take a force and counterattack Jesus and his band. Before the battle, Titus delivers the speech in which he describes the coming battle as my onset.
You still doing this? I thought you get that over. You got sit, girl.
Boy, get out of here. I tell you kids, he then attacks the Jews with his troops and routs them. Some of the Jews, however, escape to their boats on the Sea of Galilee. Josephus describes these boats as small, where they spend the night. The next morning, Titus orders his soldiers to construct boats to attack the Jews. In the ensuing battle, the Romans catch Jews like fish. Following the battle, Josephus describes the dead bodies of the Jews giving off a terrible stink. And that's reference 118. The following list is presented for clarification of the parallels between Josephus's sea battle passage and John 21. Okay, let's go to list these few. The first one. Hey guys, calm down a little bit. Number 1. Both passages describes the followers of a Jesus who spend the night in a small boat. Number 2. Both passages describe a catching that occurs the following morning. Number 3. Each passage occurs on the Sea of Galilee or Tiberias. Number 4. Jesus and Titus share the previously noted collection of the parallels in John 21 involving the condemning of Simon and the sparing of John. And if you notice, if you go through some of the missing books or some other older documents, I forget which one, but there are a couple ones that mentions a couple different men who are actually named Jesus, right? So when he's talking about there are multiple Jesuses, it just triggered that thought because I read when I was like, oh, it was one of them is called because I read it not too long ago, and at first I was like, wait, is this the Jesus of the New Testament? And that's what kind of threw me off, because it's an old manuscript. Let me make myself a note. I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna share it with y'all in the comments today. Hold on. I think it's some kind of, I think wisdom is in the title. Wisdom is in the title of it, but throughout the whole thing, it's talking about another Jesus, like calling him by name. But you could tell as you read it, some things sounded similar to the New Testament Jesus, but there was definitely some things I was like, no, this can't be the same Jesus. So there are a few different Jesuses, and I'm not sure if he's going to point all of them out. But it just triggered that particular book. So, okay. The parallels work to give a typological and satirical meaning to John 21, one that should not be difficult for the reader to see at this point. Indeed, if Jesus were to say to his disciples to cast a net and become fishers of men in John 21, then the satirical relationship between that passage and Josephus's description of the sea battle becomes too obvious to overlook. The fact that Jesus makes this prophecy earlier in his ministry does not make its implications any less clear, particularly in the light of the fact that the group that he instructs to cast the net in John 21 contains Simon, James, and John, the same individuals he has predicted would henceforth become catchers of men earlier in his ministry. Once again, the authors of the New Testament are testing the memory of the reader. All right. Once again, the authors of the New Testament are testing the memory of the reader. Only the reader with a good memory will recall that it is Simon and the sons of Zebedee, whom Jesus has earlier predicted would henceforth be catching men. And only such a reader will recall that Jesus made this prophecy regarding catching men while standing on the very beach where Titus stands as his soldiers catch Jews like fish. Notice that the author indicates only that the events of John 21 take place after these things, that is, after Jesus' crucifixion. In other words, the events of John 21 could have occurred at any time following the crucifixion and can be understood as being contemporaneous with the events of the parallel fishing passage from Wars of the Jews. With this clever device, the authors unify the time frames of the Gospels and the Wars of the Jews. John 21 is intended to be understood as both an event from the life of a Jewish Messiah, circa 30 CE, and a depiction, albeit satirical, of Titus's sea battle with the Messianic movement's Galilean fishermen. The passage can be read as the end of the story of one Savior of Israel and the beginning of the story of another. As with different Gospels that form the puzzle of the empty tomb, John 21 and the catching passage from Wars of the Jews are designed to be interactive. And again, their interaction creates a story different from the benign one that appears on the surface. John 21 interacts with Josephus' catching passage to create a satire indicating that the confused followers of Jesus mistake Titus for the Lord. The Jesus they follow, Jesus the son of Shaphat, the principal head of the band of robbers, is not on the beach because Titus has killed him. Josephus records his death in the passage stating that Titus had slain the authors of this revolt, clearly indicating Jesus. Therefore, the Jesus that the disciples follow no longer exists, and they mistake Titus for their Lord. Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Thus deluded, the disciples then do Titus's bidding, helping the Romans capture the Jewish rebels swimming into the Sea of Tiberias by casting their net. The satire is a perfect synopsis of the real intent of Christianity, which is to convert the followers of the Jewish Messiah into followers of Caesar without their knowing it. Having achieved this goal, Titus, the Lord, then sits down with his new disciples for a breakfast of bread and fish. The words bread and fish are, as I have shown, both used as synonyms for human flesh in the New Testament. Hold on. Alright, y'all, hold on. It's all crusty again. Sorry. I know. Today is just completely unprofessional on all areas. Quote. No. I skipped the. Hold on. Having achieved his goal, Titus, the Lord, then sits down with his new disciples for a breakfast of bread and fish. The words bread and fish are, as I have shown, both used as synonyms for human flesh in the New Testament. Notice the author's witticism. The disciples don't ask his name, which would give away the fact that his name is Titus, but know that he is the Lord. Quote, Jesus said to them, "Come and eat breakfast," yet none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" knowing that it was the Lord. Jesus then came and took the bread and gave it to them, and likewise fish. This is now the third time Jesus showed himself to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. End quote. That's John 21:12-14. The interaction between the New Testament and the Wars of the Jews identifies the fish that Titus served to his disciples in John 21 as the putrefied bodies of the fish killed by the Romans during the battle mentioned above. This putrid smell of the fish on the beach parallels the stench recorded in the other passages of cannibalism, the tomb of Lazarus in the New Testament, and Mary's son in Wars of the Jews. Quote, and a terrible stink and a very sad sight there was on the following days over that country, for as for the shores, they were full of shipwrecks and of dead bodies, and all swelled, And as the dead bodies were inflamed by the sun and putrefied, they corrupted the air. End quote. That's pretty good, Si. And that's Wars of the Jews 3:10 and 5:30. Okay, they see it. And the bread that the disciples eat is also identified in the New Testament. It is the flesh of the Messiah who was raised from the dead. Notice how clear an example the following passage is of Jesus' seemingly symbolic statements which take on a black comedy meaning when read literally. Quote, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. The Jews therefore quarreled among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his life blood, you shall have no life in you. End quote. John 6:51 through 54. To make clear that it is the body of the Son of Man that the disciples are feasting on, John 21 states that this is the third time Jesus showed himself to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. The author is including this detail at this point because the Jesus who actually rose from the dead was Lazarus, who showed himself to the disciples twice previously, first at his resurrection and then again at the feast of Lazarus. The disciples are being satirized as unwittingly feeding on the Messiah's body. The joke regarding bread in John 21 is that they are eating from the same loaf that was eaten during the feast of Lazarus above. Guys, this is so disgusting. I just can't believe that, like, we read without reading and understanding. Like, we read without comprehending what we're reading. Because we've been taught to read in a certain way, that's how we read. And we get a interpretation that keeps you off from what you're really reading, right? Oh, my gosh. I would note that the analysis above has implications for the sacrament of communion. It suggests that the Romans deliberately created the ritual as a cruel joke on Christians. I don't know, that might be our title today. A cruel joke on Christians. I don't know, let me think about it though.
Yeah, I'm gonna think if I see a Christian with the Bible out all quick to chop me with it, like, oh man, I don't even know.
Give them some grace. In any event, the contemptuous humor that the Romans created regarding the cannibalism of the Messianic Jews evidently springs from the irony they saw in a people with such strict dietary laws eating rancid human flesh. The irony of the Jews, a people too often fastidious to eat pork, eating human flesh, would have been widely understood within the patrician class when Wars of the Jews was written. The satirist Juvenal, for example, referred to it without providing any context. Quote, some whose lot it has been to have Sabbath-fearing fathers, worshiping nothing but clouds and the numen of heavens, and see no difference between the flesh of swine and humans, since their fathers abstained from pork. End quote. And that's reference 119. So it was, they understood that this was, satire, right? People whom the whole world knows don't even eat pork. Like, they have strict dietary laws. They don't eat this type of stuff. You mean to tell me that they feast on human flesh? Like, they all knew that this was satire, right? The two Jesuses who are on the beach when the Romans catch Jews in the Sea of Galilee, Titus and Jesus, the son of Shaphat, are simply the final Jesuses within another satiric term. All the Jesuses encountered after the resurrection are different individuals. As they have done with the various Mary Magdalenes, the authors include seemingly irrelevant details in each gospel that make it logically impossible for any of the four Jesus encountered after the resurrection to have been the same individual. In Matthew, the Jesus encountered by his disciples does not ascend to heaven, instead saying to his followers, I am with you always. In Mark, however, Jesus is described as ascending to heaven, just as he is in the Gospel of Luke. Though these two ascension stories appear identical, in fact, they take place at different locations. The authors reveal this in an earlier passage in Mark chapter 14, verse 28. This passage indicates that Jesus will meet with his disciples in Galilee, obviously some days following his resurrection, whereas the ascension in Luke occurs just outside of Jerusalem on the same day as the resurrection. Finally, the Jesus in John meets with a different number of disciples following the resurrection, a different number of times, and at a location different from the ones in the other three Gospels. The authors of the Gospels designed their creation to be perfectly logical. Whenever two events seem to contradict one another, the reader needs to recognize that he or she is reading incorrectly. That is to say, that he or she is making an incorrect assumption. In this case, the incorrect assumption is that all the Jesuses in the Gospels are the same individual. Simply changing that assumption makes the Gospels become true, that is, without contradiction. However, who do the disciples encounter at the conclusion of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, if not the Jesus who was crucified? Just as the authors have identified whose empty tomb Mary Magdalene discovers with its stone rolled away before she comes across it in the dark, the authors have already given the reader this information. The Jesus depicted at the conclusion of the Synoptic Gospels is the Jesus whom Pilate has previously released, Jesus Barabbas. As the New Testament's final dark comic stroke, each gospel concludes with a different individual as its Jesus. Of course, the final Jesus is described in John 21, the very end of the Gospels. That Jesus is Titus, the true Son of God whom Christianity worships. I suspect that the herd of Jesus' roaming about at the conclusion of the four Gospels are an ironic joke reflecting the fact that there were numerous individuals claiming to be the Messiah during this era, a fact that is recorded in both the New Testament and Wars of the Jews. The authors of the New Testament are perhaps sarcastically making the point that since there are already so many Messiahs or Christ, there is no reason why Titus could not be one as well. Finally, a question I found interesting is whether the authors intended to put forth the combined version of the visit to the empty tomb and the revelation that Jesus did not rise from the dead as a philosophical statement advocating reason over religious mysticism. The reader must resolve those logical contradictions. If he or she fails, the punishment is belief in a false God. And don't we know that to be the truth, because we read it wrong. We read it wrong. And we have been found to be worshiping a false God, right? The reader must resolve those logical contradictions. If he or she fails, the punishment is belief in a false God. It is possible that the authors of the Gospels created them as a sort of educational tool disguised as a narrative about Jesus. The authors may have wished their readers to work through the various contradictions in logic in order to develop their reasoning ability and thus be able to think their way out of religious superstition. They may have wished the Gospels to be seen by posterity as a contribution to the development of reason. Now, that's something to think about. Now, that's the end of chapter 7. Okay. We'll go ahead and start a little bit of chapter 8. It's not that long, but we probably won't finish it today. Okay, so chapter 8 is entitled The New Root and Branch. Having shown the methods that the Romans used to satirically communicate the real history of their struggle with the Messianic Jews, I can now present the most complex of their works. Hey, shush, y'all. The reader will recognize that I have already touched on many of the passages that make up this satire. These separate elements were designed to be linked together to create a larger intertextual story. I refer to this satire as the new root and branch. It is a vast literary device discoursing through the Gospels and 3 of Josephus's books. Because it extends over several different books, it is hard to discover, but as noted above, this literary device is not unusual in Hebrew literature. It is, for instance, similar to the way in which the Abraham saga is continued in the book of Samuel and the book of Kings. Through a series of distinct passages, one character becomes associated with another character by means of parallel acts or locations and by means of similar language. The purpose of this particular satire is to document that the root and branch of the Judaic Messianic lineage has been destroyed and that a Roman lineage has been grafted on in its place. This satirical system actually begins in the book of Malachi, the final book of the Old Testament. Malachi means my messenger. In Hebrew, Malachi means my messenger in Hebrew and was used as an epithet for the prophet Elijah. This is because in Judaic literature, it was predicted that the Messiah would be preceded by the appearance of Elijah, who would act as the messenger of his coming. Quote, "But I shall send you Elijah the prophet before the great and dreadful day of the Lord." End quote. That's Malachi 3:23. This final passage in the book of Malachi predicts a coming disaster for the wicked, one that will leave them destroyed by fire and with neither root nor branch. Quote, "For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the proud, yes, all who do wickedly will be stubble. And the day which is coming shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts, and will leave them neither root nor branch." End quote. That's Malachi 3:19. Josephus clearly records that the first part of this prophecy concerning the wicked being burned up came to pass during the war with the Romans. He also records that the second part of the prophecy, that they would be left with neither root nor branch, was also fulfilled during Titus's campaign, though not so overtly. To understand that the wicked, that is, the Messianic rebels, were to be left with no root or branch, the reader needs to comprehend. Hey, Isaiah, chill. Yes.
Daddy had to take a shower.
To understand that the wicked, that is, the Messianic rebels, who were to be left with no root or branch, the reader needs to comprehend perhaps the most complex literary satire ever written. Wait a minute, that might be our title for today. As noted above, root and branch were Judaic metaphors used to denote the Messianic lineage. For example, the Genesis Florilegium states, quote, "Until the Messiah of righteousness, the branch of David, comes, because to him and his seed was given the covenant of my kingdom of his people." End quote. And that's reference 120. This root and branch messianic imagery found in the Dead Sea Scrolls is a continuation of its use by the prophet Isaiah concerning the coming Messiah, and the following translation from another fragment of the scroll shows, quote, Isaiah the prophet, the thickets of the forest will be felled with an axe, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. A staff shall rise from the root of Jesse, and a planting from his root will bear fruit, the branch of David, end quote. And that's reference 121. The authors of the New Testament continue the messianic root and branch metaphor, though with a totally different perspective. Kurt, shalom. Within the New Testament, the root and branch imagery is presented in the context of their being transformed into a different lineage, the lineage of the new Messiah. The branches are described as either being pruned or being grafted onto. Jesus predicts, echoing the book of Malachi, that those branches that do not abide in the new Judaism he brings will be burned. Quote, if anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them into the fire. Excuse me, end quote. And that's John 15 through 6. Josephus builds on the root and branch imagery in the New Testament by establishing a series of related parallels. As we have seen so often, these parallels contain puzzles that reveal the names of unnamed characters. And in every case, the name of the unnamed character is Eleazar. My interpretation of the parallels involving Eleazar is that they indicate that Eleazar was a name of the individual that the Messianic rebels looked to as the root foreseen by Judaic prophecy. Judging from the satire, this individual may actually have existed and have been the spiritual leader of the rebellion. As in the case with all the typological passages, the root and branch satire can be recognized by determining the temporal order in which its events occur, even though they are described in different books. This is the same technique required to solve the puzzle of the empty tomb above, where the reading has to arrange the 4 empty tomb texts in chronological order to comprehend the combined story that the text creates. Josephus provides the reader with a clear path to this temporal understanding. The other keys to recognizing the satire are the same ones that are used throughout the New Testament and the Wars of the Jews. These are parallel locations and conceptual parallels. Further, some of the principles from the Roman sciences of botany and homeopathic medicine are used in the root and branch satire. Roman medicine considered that whatever made you sick could sometimes cure you. For instance, one treatment for a scorpion bite was to apply mashed raw scorpion to the wound. Roman botany considered that by introducing tame specimens into a colony of wild plants, a hybrid and tamer plant would result. Pedanius Discorides, I probably screwed that up, the chief physician and botanist accompanying Vespasian and Titus into Judea, was familiar with both of these scientific principles. There are key elements in the root and branch satire. Pedanius was justly famous for pioneering the first documented use of anesthesia and the first medical use of the electric shock therapy, using electric eels to generate the current. He also wrote a textbook on botany that became the basis for modern herbalism and identified hundreds of medicinal plant roots, many very serviceable roots, and he put it, as he put it, that had not previously been known to medical science. As one of Rome's leading scientists, Pedanius would certainly have advised Titus on what Josephus calls the useful science, and that's reference 122, of expelling demons from apparently insane people. One of the elements of the root and branch satire is the strange plant that Josephus calls rue, R-U-E. It has a root by the name of Baris. This root, Baris, has the power to dispel demons, defined by Josephus as the spirit of the wicked. That Josephus mentions a plant named rue is significant, since rue is one of the plants that Pedanius studied and wrote about. In his textbook on herbalism, he explains the dangers of the wild or mountain rue and the benefits of the domesticated or garden rue, which grew near fig trees and could be safely used in tinctures and infusions. Pedanius' gardening technique is essentially the core of the Roman pacification strategy documented in the root and branch satire. The Romans attempted to domesticate the Jews by pruning the root of their demonic wickedness, the Messiah Eleazar, and then grafting into the root, that is, Jesus, which has the power to dispel demons. A quote from Titus recorded by the 4th century Christian writer Sulpicius Severus mentions his understanding of the importance of the root to the Jews and Christians. Quote, I turn my pause that for a second, gotta turn it down. Okay. Quote, Titus is said to have first summoned a council and deliberated whether or not he should destroy such a mighty temple. Titus himself said the destruction of the temple was a prime necessity in order to wipe out more completely the religions of the Jews and Christians, for they urged that these religions, though hostile to each other, nevertheless sprang from the same source. The Christians had grown out of the Jews. If the root were destroyed, the stock would easily perish. Christianos ex ludeis extisis redis sublamta stirpem facem periturem. That's the Latin, I'm sure. To begin the analysis, I would first note the elements from the New Testament that are used in the root and branch satire. These concepts stem from the root of Jesse and the branch of David, messianic prophecies in the Old Testament, and Dead Sea Scrolls. Root and branch elements in the New Testament. 1. The messianic lineage is described as being pruned. 2. There is a prediction that the messianic lineage will be grafted onto. 3. Jesus' capture occurs on the Mount of Olives. 4. 3 are crucified, but 1 survives. And 5. Joseph of Arimathea takes survivor down from the cross. The analysis continues by presenting each of the component passages that make up the satire in turn. The following passages takes place at the fortress Herodian. It occurs before the siege of Jerusalem and tells the story of an Eleazar who, like his namesake at Masada, commits suicide. For clarification, I present the following list of concepts in the passage that are elements in the larger satire. Location: Theco and Herodian. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so we'll go through we may not make it through all the locations. Okay, we have 59 minutes. Let me read a couple of the locations and we'll pause it. Okay. Location: Theco and Herodian. 1. Eleazar. 2. Pitched camp at Theco. 3. Refusal to surrender. 4. Suicide. Quote, nor was it long ere Simon came violently again upon their country, when he pitched his camp at a certain village called Theco, and sent Eleazar, one of his companions, to those that kept garrison at Herodian, and in order to persuade them to surrender that fortress to him. The garrison received this man readily, while they knew nothing of what he came about. But as soon as he talked of the surrender of the palace, they fell upon him with their drawn swords till he found that he had no place for flight when he threw himself down from the wall in the valley beneath. Okay. Oh, so he died immediately, end quote. And that's Wars of the Jews 4:9 and 5:18 through 5:20. The following passage is also part of the satire. The reader should recognize it as the passage I analyzed in chapter 6, which led me to understand that the name of the Messiah captured on the Mount of Olives was Eleazar. One of the elements that makes the root and branch satire so difficult to comprehend is that it uses the solutions to other puzzles as components. In other words, a reader must first solve the puzzle that reveals the certain young man captured on the Mount of Olives was named Eleazar to be able to move forward and see the even larger story that the captured Eleazar is a part of. For clarification, I present the following list of elements in the story that are part of the satire. Maybe I should pause right here, because this one, I think we'll pause right here, y'all. We're going to pause right here. I'm going to reread this paragraph tomorrow, but we're going to pause right here. So it's going through comparing the different locations and what they did and how they, if you look at the overall story, you have all the pieces, you will be able to put it together. This seems like a lot of stuff, the New Testament. It's almost like a college course. It's almost like what you call what's the last thing you do? It's like a case study or a capstone or something like that, where like your last semester is nothing but trying to put together this whole, let me make sure I explain it the right way. You're trying to put together this whole story. You got like all the missing pieces. It's like a movie with different parts to it, or sequels and prequels and all those different things. And when they give it to you at first, it's like they give you like the middle of the story. And then after they give you like the first initial release of everything, which would have been like not necessarily the New Testament if we're looking at the New Testament, but it seems like it's one thing until you begin to watch the sequels, and then after like a couple different parts, like part 3 or part 4, they decide to take you back all the way back to the earlier days. They do like prequels and stuff like that, and then as you get more pieces of the puzzle, the whole, what you originally thought this was when they just gave you the first initial release of this movie from this series, it's completely, the entire story has changed. You were completely off about what was really going on. This is exactly what the New Testament is. And if you don't have all the missing pieces of the puzzle, some of the other literature that was written, and especially if you're not reading the New Testament along with the Wars of the Jews simultaneously, you get what Christianity puts out, first release. This is what we're going with. And then some people is like, oh, ain't nothing as good as the first one. But how can you really say that when what we originally thought the first one was is not what we thought it was, right? This is not what we thought it was, right? So, yeah, this is what it's doing. It's bringing all that stuff together. So, I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. Let me go ahead and put my mark here. I'm going to do it right here so we can start back here. Actually, I might just do the one that we just read. And we'll read all the locations tomorrow. And that might be the only thing that we get to read tomorrow, the different locations. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to pause it back here at the location so we can start here. We'll start here. Okay, 223. That way, if you kind of keep it all together in one video, so we can kind of understand that part together. All right, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. It is Saturday, October the 2nd, 2021, day 268 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. And of the 3 years consecutive day count, day 937. We read Job 4, 5, and 6. And we read Caesar's Messiah, the rest of chapter 7, starting at page 212. And we started in chapter 8. And we paused that page. We really paused on page 224, but I put 223 so we can kind of pick that back up tomorrow. All right, y'all. And I saw a couple questions. Let me go ahead and end it real quick, and I'll glance at them and see if I can answer them for you.
I want to end it.
Hold on, Pooh. All right, so the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6. Everybody knows that by now. chapter 6, verses 22 through 27.
Me?
Remember, the first 21 verses of the
Anyway.
Numbers chapter 6 is the Nazarite vow, and man or woman can take it. Shush y'all. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel. Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful. You about to get up out that chair. Okay, let's see.
I got this.
You got that from the parade.
I got this from
So no
parade.
questions on Facebook. A couple questions.
I got this from
Oh,
a
those
parade
questions
over
kind of
there.
go together, Jerry and Anitra.
In a
Okay.
football game.
So Jerry asked, why did Yahuwah let the New Testament be written? I mean, here's what I like to say. I like how one guy said it. He said the New Testament, it really should be named the New Test, right? It really should be named the New Test. And I say that because if you're familiar with Yahuwah's Torah and you put it in you, and you create a habit or a lifestyle of actually trying to put in place its principles to live a righteous and holy life while you transverse this earth during your time here, right? If you read it enough and you study it enough, you don't even really have to study it. If you read it enough, you'll become familiar with how we should live a upright and upstanding life, right? Whether you live in amongst your own people or strangers, it teaches you how to be a good, decent human being. How to, if you have employees, make sure you're not withholding wages. You don't treat the fatherless or the widows wrong. All these different things, helping out people, just decency stuff. If you read through the Torah, you realize that's what it is, right? And it teaches you how to live in a community amongst other people, and even things on how to keep this body in working order and keeping it clean, and so it lasts as long as it should, right? And you don't cut your life short. If you're familiar with the Torah, you would understand those things, right? So when you get to the New Test, you will realize, wait a minute, something is off. This goes against the life principles that give us life and life more abundantly, right? I know they kind of come out of the New Testament, but still, that's true. Yahuwah's Torah gives us life and more abundantly, right? Yahuwah even tells us, I have set out two paths before you, life and death. You choose. If I say, matter of fact, let me help you. Choose the path of life. This is what's going to lead you to life more abundantly, right? Yahuwah's Torah is. What is Torah? Yahuwah, your word is Torah. The Torah is truth, right? And it's not just for his people. It's good for all people, but those who decide to take Torah and apply it to their life become Yahuwah's people, right? So, I believe he allowed it to be written just like any other thing that we perceive as being good and evil. There has to be a balance. It's there to give us a choice. We have to choose. So if we keep to Yahuwah's commands, we begin to understand some things. It grows us up, and we understand that we have a choice. He has given us a choice, and we do. We choose.
Mom.
We choose, right?
Mommy, I can end the video first.
You can end it in a minute, boo. So it's there to kind of be like a contrast to the truth, like compare and contrast, or whatever you want to call it. But it's something there it's there to get you to think, to make you choose. Okay, you walking down the road, okay, everything seems nice and cool, the road has been smooth. Okay, let's put a fork in the road here. Let's see if you'll be able to identify which way you should take, right? And that fork in the road happened to be the New Testament. Okay, this is starkly different from the path we've been traveling that Yahuwah told us we should keep to give us life, right? Now we have to make a decision. Sometimes the decision can be made really quick. Because it looks so good and it looks right, But if we examine it just a little bit further, we'll see, wait a minute, there's stumbling blocks in the road here, and we don't really quite understand why. We know that there was rocks on the road, and that was the right road, but we need to figure out, because they almost kind of look identical, but they're not. One is the right way, one is the wrong way, right? So I think Yahuwah allowed it to be written, just like a lot of other things to be written. It's kind of like the question, why do Yahuwah allow good people to die? Why do children die early? I think that falls in like the same line. Some things we may be able to answer, some things we may never have the answers to, or even come up with anything close that would satisfy everybody in the world. But I think it's there to allow you to exercise your choice and allow you to choose whether you want to, because Yahuwah doesn't want people serving him like robots. You can choose. You can choose whatever the heck you want to do while you here in the earth, right? I don't know, it's not earth, it's earth. But it it makes life more exciting, more interesting, if we feel like we really have a part to play, if we have the ability to choose which way we want to go. I don't want to be a good person. I want to be a horrible person. Let me do what I want to do. Okay, go ahead, but just realize, every choice has a consequence, right? And those are the things I think Yahuwah tried to prepare us with his Torah. Right, realizing you can do whatever the heck you want to do, but realize every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Whether it's good or whether it's evil, right? And that's why I think, and I guess the best way I can not understand it, but explain it right now, I would say that whose alarm is that? So that's why I would say why Yahuwah let the New Testament be written. It's just, it's like other things. It really comes down to us. I think it really comes down to personal choices and decisions and what we choose to latch on to or to take and apply to our life. Because it's all kinds of wicked things. You got the porn industry that's been created. You got child sex trafficking, male and female, all these things. Why do you allow these things to go on, right? It's simply a choice. We're here and we can really do whatever the heck we want to do, but we have to take responsibility for our own life and choose to either take these dark roads or these roads that lead to light. That's how I look at it. Jerry, so I kind of hope that kind of somewhat answer. At least that's from my understanding. That's what I would say. Somebody else may give you something different, but that's what I would say. With all the information that I've gained and I've learned up till now, that's what I would say. That's how I understand it. I don't know, my understanding may change down the line. Y'all know if you've been here long enough, after a certain period of time, the more information I get, if it seems to contradict with previous beliefs, we'll look at it. We'll examine it. Okay, is this truth or is this not true? If I find that it's true, we'll adjust. And you will see that I've adjusted on a couple things since we've been here together reading. Right? Okay, Anitra. Hey, girl, hey. I'm learning the truth. Is New Testament false teachers. Ooh, you're definitely new to the channel. That's actually the whole series of what we're doing now, how we're reading Caesar's Messiah. I would say that just to give you you probably can kind of figure that from how I answered Jerry's question just previously. But the New Testament was created, right? A lot of its characters were created. A lot of them are composites of different characters put together. Things that happened during Titus's campaign, and all those different things in previous history. But a lot of the New Testament is false. It really is. It's really just literature written by a Roman family named the Pisos, right? I will say this, the New Testament does take things from the Torah and add it in there. It adds things around it. It subtracts us. It subtracts stuff. While reading the New Testament, although most of it is just literature, you can find some truths in it simply because they've taken it from Torah. And some things that you may not find in Torah, you can just tell that there is just good advice that you can follow. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can, if you want to still read it, that's fine. As long as you understand what it is and you know how to separate truth from error. If you know how to do that, you can read whatever you want to read. As long as you know you can pull from it what you need, throw the rest away, keep on going and live your life, right? So you could serve other gods if you wanted to, Perry. That's not what Yahuwah said. We're only supposed to serve Yahuwah and him alone, right? That's the whole, if you read through the entire Torah, Old Testament, that's one of the main things Yahuwah constantly talked about, adultery and idolatry, right? Not just with him, but because it was so much of it going on between couples themselves and nations and other gods, he used what we were physically doing, the adultery and idolatry, and related that to him and his people and how we should not be serving multiple gods. We should only be serving him, right? He said because there is no other God. Although there were entities and things that they could worship and other human beings that set themselves up as gods and people called them gods, which they were really no gods at all. That's why Yahuwah said there is no other Savior. There is not one. There is only me. He said, matter of fact, if you know one, you come tell me who it is. Those are my words, but you can read it all through Isaiah and all, everything. I posted them scriptures multiple times and how Yahuwah constantly called that out, right? So that's your choice. You could if you wanted to. If you wanted to go serve another God, Yahuwah would let you go and do it, right? But he said, look, I got life and death set out before you. Choose life. Matter of fact, this is the path of life. Choose that so that all you do will prosper. But you could choose if you wanted to. If you decided, no, I don't want to walk down the paths of righteousness. I don't want to walk down the paths of truth. I want to serve multiple gods. I want to do what they do. I want to do what the other nations are doing. He would let you go and do that. You would live and you would die that way, right? And we all have a choice. It's our choice, when it comes down to it. So that's what I would say. Josiah, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. So that's all the questions. I hope I kind of answered them somewhat. I ain't saying it's the all in all answer to those questions, but based on my understanding and what I know and how I move and operate and how I only serve Yahuwah, I answered it from my perspective. Somebody else may give you a whole different answer, and I guess that's okay. I can't tell them they right or they wrong, but based on what I believe, I believe we should worship one God. We shouldn't be scatterbrained. It doesn't look cool, especially like if you're in a marriage or any type of relationship. I mean, again, unless you guys agree that we're gonna do menage a trois and all this stuff, and we can date this open relationship, all that stuff. If that's what y'all agree on, okay, that's what y'all agree on. But y'all gonna have to deal with the consequences of those decisions that you make. But yeah, we shouldn't be worshiping multiple gods. It brings in a lot of confusion. It's Yahuwah uses everything how we should relate to him. Everything that we're doing in relationship with one another can be looked at in the same way how we relate to Yahuwah. Whether it's being single-hearted in a relationship with a husband and a wife, in a relationship, it's how it should be. It's complete faithfulness. We worship one. We serve one. Just like husband and wife, there should be one husband, one wife, or whatever. Okay. We would. That's not what you meant? Okay. Explain a little bit more. We got a few minutes. Type it out a little bit better. I guess I answered your question wrong. All right. Anybody else got any other questions? All right. Again, Chrissy, I want to say thank you for the reminder of the honey. It helped, although I had to kind of clear my system, had to clear my throat a couple times. It definitely worked, kept me from doing the cough. It felt like I got punched in the gut real quick when we first started, and the coughing, it seemed like it was about to start going, but it definitely helped. I know I'm about to end it now, babe. All right. So, all right. Maybe typing, maybe not, but we'll go ahead and end it. If you put something there, I think the live will let you keep asking stuff or posting comments for like 5 minutes, and it's going to cut everything off and tell you that the comments are no longer active. So, or if you got something, just put it in the comments, in the actual comment section of the video. When I go back later and check it out, I'll answer it for you. All right, y'all. So that being, my lips are getting dry. I did. My lips just sucking it up. Okay, y'all. All right. That being said, I love y'all. Excuse me. I see y'all back here tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Booze. Oh, Bella. I'm about to end it. She'll half it. I'm gonna call her again. Y'all little witnesses that I was about to end it, then I realized. Bella. I don't know. Oh, there you go. I'm about to end it. Well, she wouldn't let me live it down all day. Don't let me end this without her being here. Boy, I hear it from her. Come on. Uh-oh.
You gonna end it or you gonna get ready?
End it.